Have you ever talked to a woman for hours and yet she never really opened up? You ask her how her day was. She says it was fine. You ask what she's doing this weekend. She says nothing special. And the conversation just keeps slipping away like water running through your fingers. Then you notice something that makes you uncomfortable. With you, she feels distant. But with another man, she is smiling, leaning in, talking passionately as if the rest of the world disappears. Why? There is one question that 90% of men never dare to ask, but the men who do ask it are the ones she cannot forget. Today we are going to talk about that question, why it triggers desire at a psychological level, not a surface one, and how to ask it without sounding like you are reading from a script. But before I tell you what that question is, there is something extremely important you need to understand. Attraction does not come from impressing her. It comes from how you make her feel about herself when she is with you. Listen carefully to this. Most men enter performance mode when they talk to women. They talk about their job. They talk about their projects. They talk about their achievements. They try to sound interesting, funny, confident. They think the more I impress her, the more she will like me. But the truth is a little uncomfortable. When you talk too much about yourself, she becomes passive. She listens, she nods, she gives polite smiles. But inside, there is no dopamine, no oxytocin, no connection. She does not feel seen. And the female brain responds very strongly to the feeling of being seen, being heard, being understood. Let me tell you a story. Two men meet the same woman at a party. The first man is very successful. He talks about his work, his international trips, his big projects. He speaks confidently, no mistakes, no awkwardness, very polished. The second man does not say much. He asks her one question. What in your life makes you feel truly alive? She goes quiet for a few seconds. Then she starts talking. At first, she talks about her job, then about a childhood dream, then about a time she failed and almost gave up. The second man does not interrupt. He does not insert his own stories. He does not try to sound smart. He just listens. At the end of the night, who do you think she remembers? Not the man who talked better, but the man who made her talk more. This is the pattern you need to notice. When a woman starts to talk more than you do, when she shares personal stories, when she says things like, I have never told anyone this before, you are no longer having small talk. You are stepping into her inner world. And when you activate that world, dopamine and oxytocin start to rise. That is when attraction begins. Not because you are impressive, but because she feels more alive around you. The problem is this. Most men are afraid to ask deep questions. They are afraid of sounding too serious, afraid of making the mood heavy, afraid of rejection. So they stay in the safe zone. What do you do for work? Where do you live? What kind of food do you like? Those questions are not wrong, but they never touch her inner world. Attraction is not triggered at the level of information. It is triggered at the level of emotion. And this is something you need to remember. You do not need to impress her to attract her. You need to create a space where she feels safe enough to open up. Let me ask you something. The last time you talked to a woman, were you genuinely curious about her, or were you just waiting for your turn to speak? Be honest. If you were waiting for your turn to speak, she could feel it. Women have an extremely sensitive radar for inauthenticity. You can say the right words. But if inside you are thinking, how do I look attractive? That energy leaks out. And that is why we are going deeper in the next part. Because women do not open their bodies in places where they cannot open their hearts. But before I talk about that, I want you to do one thing. Leave a comment below. Have you ever felt like you had to perform just to get attention? Like this video, if you have ever found yourself talking a lot, but getting very little in return. And now we move into something even more important. Why do some conversations make her lean in closer, while others make her shut down even when you did nothing wrong? In the next part, I will explain the psychological mechanism behind this. And once you understand it, you will never talk to women the same way again. In the previous part, we talked about how attraction does not come from impressing her, but from how you make her feel about herself. Now, I want you to understand an even stronger truth. Women do not open their bodies in places where they cannot open their hearts. Listen to that again. No emotional safety means no real desire. A lot of men think women are turned on by boldness, confidence, or edgy lines. But the female nervous system works differently. If she feels judged, if she feels pressured, if she feels analyzed too quickly or treated like a target, her body will resist, even if she smiles, even if she stays sitting there. Desire is not force. Desire equals safety plus curiosity. You want tension? You have to create safety first. For example, you ask her, what in your life makes you feel truly alive? She answers, maybe a little hesitant. This is where most men make a mistake. They interrupt. They change the subject. They joke to break the serious mood. Why? Because they cannot tolerate emotional depth. But a grounded man is different. He follows up with, why is that important to you? Or what moment changed you the most? And then he does the hardest thing. He stays quiet. He does not rescue her from the silence. He does not rescue himself from the awkwardness. He just stays there, present. And that is when you start noticing interesting patterns. She holds eye contact longer, her voice softens. She leans toward you without even realizing it. That is not technique. That is a nervous system response when she feels safe. Have you noticed that when someone truly listens to you, you want to talk more? That is the mechanism happening here. Now let us go deeper. Curiosity creates more attraction than confidence. Confidence impresses. Curiosity connects. Confidence makes her think, he seems solid. Curiosity makes her feel, he actually sees who I really am. When you ask questions that touch on passion, memories, longing, you activate her inner world. For example, what makes you feel most desired? Or, when was the last time you felt genuinely moved? These questions are not crude, but they go straight to the emotional core. And in that moment, the atmosphere shifts. She might laugh, then pause and think. Everything slows down. Tension begins to build. This kind of tension does not come from physical touch. It comes from resonance. But be careful. If you ask these questions with the energy of expecting something in return, it collapses immediately. And that brings us to the biggest mistake men make: need versus desire. Neediness is when you are seeking validation from her. You ask a deep question, but inside you are thinking, I hope she is impressed. I hope she likes me more. I hope I am doing this right. Women can feel that. Desire is different. Desire is when you do not need her to feel complete, but you choose her. The difference is energy. For example, you ask a deep question. She goes quiet for a few seconds. The mistake is that you start talking nonstop to fill the space. You over-explain. You give a nervous laugh. You break the mood. Why? Because you are afraid the silence means you failed. The right move is that you hold the silence. You look into her eyes, a slight smile, no pressure. Silence is power. The right silence is not insecurity. It is a sign of inner stability. And when you hold that stability, you will start seeing very clear signals. She initiates touch. She asks you deeper questions in return. She sends longer messages more frequently, not because you mastered some technique, but because she feels more alive experiencing herself around you. Be honest with me. Have you ever had an amazing conversation, but once you got home, her messages slowly became dry? That is because you impressed her, but you did not connect. You showed her who you are, but you did not truly see who she is. And in a world where everyone is trying to be noticed, the man who genuinely listens becomes rare. Rare, and because of that, attractive. But this is still not the most important part. Because in the next section, I am going to tell you something that shocks a lot of people. She is not attracted to the question. She is attracted to the experience of being seen while answering it. And if you do not understand that, you can ask the right question and still fail. Part 3 is the twist, and it will permanently change how you see attraction. Now we come to the part most men never realize. She is not attracted to the question. She is attracted to the experience of being seen while answering it. This is the twist. Men think the secret is in the wording. They write questions down, they memorize them, they search for lines that make women melt. But the truth is this: if you ask the right question, but inside you are shaky and ungrounded, it becomes creepy. If you ask a very ordinary question, but you are grounded, your eye contact steady, your energy calm, it becomes magnetic. Attraction does not come from technique. It comes from energy. I want you to picture this. Two men ask the same question. What in your life makes you feel truly alive? The first man asks with a probing look. He leans in too close. He waits for a reaction. She feels analyzed. The second man asks gently. No rush, no expectation. He asks because he is genuinely curious. She feels explored, not examined. The difference is your inner state, and this is something you have to face. If you ask to get a result, she will feel the pressure. If you ask because you truly care, she will feel safe. And when safety appears, desire finally has room to grow. Some people listening to this will think, so what is the secret question? All right, it is not one single magical line. But if you need a powerful starting point, try this. What in your life makes you feel truly alive? Not because the question is magic, but because it opens a door to her inner world. And when she steps through that door, your job is not to lead. Your job is to hold the space, hold eye contact, hold your calm, hold your presence. Do not perform, do not try to impress, do not turn the story back to yourself too soon. Just listen. And here is the final important point. Attraction is not manipulation. It is creating space for her to open herself. When you are not trying to prove your value, not rushing physical intimacy, not seeking approval, you move from need to desire. You do not need her to feel complete. You choose her because you want her. And that energy is extremely rare. Remember these 4 core ideas from today. Do not try to impress. Evoke her. No emotional safety, no real desire. Curiosity is more powerful than showing off, and desire only appears when you do not need her to validate your worth. The next time you talk to a woman, do not ask, what do you do for work? Ask, what in your life makes you feel truly alive? Then pause. Look into her eyes, listen for real, and observe what happens. It might not be immediate, but if you do this with grounded presence, you will see the difference. Now, I want to hear from you. Leave a comment below. What question will you start asking differently from today? Like this video if you have ever felt like you had to perform to get attention. And subscribe if you want to understand women through psychology, not games. Because when you understand how to create space for a woman to open up, you do not just become more attractive, you become different. And different always attracts.